started from South Africa all the way up here. There was maybe like 30 people, 30 local cyclists, and it was just, yeah, incredible to be able to share that moment. I don't think it matters really what the mode of transport is, whether it's running or walking or hiking or cycling. Like it's what suits you best, you know, what you feel gives you headspace. I think the fear of failing stops a lot of people from doing something. And I think it's small steps, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, why not just give it a go? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think there's actually a lot of value to be learnt in things that don't work out, because things that don't work out, you always take a lesson from it. Actually, I think you probably learn more from things that, you know, don't work out perfectly than things that, if everything goes to plan all the time, you don't have as many learning lessons. So yeah, why not put yourself out there? And it's either you treat it either as it's going to be something you're going to learn from rather than fail. The transition between a workplace and a home place, it gives you time to shut down and be like, okay, that's work is finished for the day, and then you can kind of like, during that journey, your brain's automatically like compartmentalizing work, and then you're home and you've like had this transition period, and it's like you've had that active way of doing it.
If you have ever wanted to understand why we should be asking for nature's help on mindsets, adventures, and more, then you're in the right place. So, welcome to Maximise Nature. Today's guest is Saoirse Pottie. If you have ever wanted to know what it's like to adventure through Africa with just you and your bike, then she's the perfect person to have a chat with. Her approach to life is to say yes now and figure it out later. For me, it's the perfect way to approach the outdoors, as it can always be unpredictable at the best of times. We're going to delve into the thought process behind her adventures, as well as how she thinks nature can provide the helping hand to people like you and me. Then we can take the good thoughts and put it in a travel bag, ready to use in our next adventure. So with that, here is episode 10 of the Maximise Nature Podcast, where Saoirse cycles through Africa across some tough terrain. Hope you enjoy. Let's introduce Saoirse. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know how busy you are at the moment, especially being in South America.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And I love that introduction. It's super nice. I really like the idea of having it as a conversation, and you take points of it and carry it for your next adventures, because that's definitely what I've done in the past when I'm listening to podcasts, and I take little snippets at things that resonate with me and carry them on. So I love that.
Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do and what you've been up to?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Saoirse. I studied initially as a zoologist, so worked in conservation for 10 years. I now work as a guide for active travel. So I take people hiking and cycling in the summer. And then in the winter, I kind of fill my free time with mostly lots of bike adventures. So I've been doing that. Well, the bike adventures have maybe been for the last like 4 or 5 years, and they've just grown progressively more and more, bigger and bigger as they've developed.
That is so cool. I didn't even know that. That sounds incredible. Where did you study?
So I studied. I did my master's in Swansea. And I actually went more into like the marine side of things. So, love the ocean. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. And super interested in just everything, whether it's like bugs or bottlenose dolphins, I like them all. So I think that's why I love the cycling, because you can, you're very immersed and you can take it all in.
As someone who comes from a physical geography background, I'm exactly the same. Like, I didn't know what geography I wanted to go in. So I just like, you know what? Rivers, more so for me, the hazard side of it sounds kind of cool. So I'll go with that.
Super cool. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's super important. And it's nice to just have a job that's you're outside as well.
If someone wanted to go into this type of expedition, and I mean with a bike or something, where would they need to start?
Um, I think there's lots of different ways into it. I think the first thing is actually, for me, if you enjoy cycling all day, it's like a main thing. Sometimes, yeah, it's if you actually enjoy cycling's something you want to do. And if you want to do it like day after day. So the first way I started, I know that's a lie actually. The first way I started, I just went straight in there and figured out whether I liked it or not. And I did like it quite luckily, otherwise I would have had an awful week. But I think a really good way is to, if you're like, I want to try bike packing, actually all the gear and the equipment can be quite expensive. And so I would book like a cheap hostel and I would go 2 days in a row and say, okay, actually, I like the idea of like traveling by bicycle. For me, it's like a beautiful speed where you can travel fast at big distances pretty quickly, but you also go slow enough where you can take everything in as well. Um, yeah, that's why I love it. And I think it's a good idea, a good place to start. And the UK, if you're based in the UK, you're super lucky because there's loads and loads of really cool community groups that run events. Basically, there's events running more or less every weekend that you can join and you can like do little trips. And there's also some really cool groups if you're a woman. For instance, there's a group, or not a group, but a business called Sisters in the Wild, and they do specific like intro to bikepacking events. So it depends really where your comfort level is, but definitely finding out that I think for me, actually enjoying it and having fun is the most important thing. So you have to know that you like to be on a bike for a long time.
So what I'd take from that is that you just followed what your, I'd say, passions or hobbies were, and then see where it took you. And when you were saying about the going fast enough to, I guess, go quickly and really enjoy it, but also be able to cruise. It's not the same because I don't actually use a bike, but when I go running on those long runs, I find it quite nice just to be like, oh, I'm out in the fresh air. It's lovely.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like you said, the UK has some fantastic places to go running, cycling, walking,
yeah,
etc.,
yeah,
etc.
yeah. And I don't think it matters really what the mode of transport is, whether it's running or walking or hiking or cycling. It's like it's what suits you best, what you feel gives you headspace. And I think for some people, they're more hikers or runners, and some people are more cyclists, or, it's good to try them all and see what you like the best.
And I find that even in those difficult, well, not even difficult times, but just when you want to slow it down, for me anyway, nature doesn't hurry. It just accomplishes it anyway. So you really have to just enjoy the moment, be there, be present, and just take it all in.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it. Is actually, yeah, is taking your time, enjoying it, and making that, the motivation. I think for me, it's more um the reason why I prefer biking over running is whenever I'm cycling, I get more of a headspace. It helps me if my brain's a bit cluttered and I go for a long bike ride. I feel people are like, what have you been thinking about? You've been cycling for 6 hours. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm thinking about. But my brain afterwards feels like a lot more quiet and a lot more chill. And I think that's like the being outside part of it.
Definitely. I mean, even training for Leeds Marathon yesterday, I was on a 13, 14 mile run, and my brain just switched off. Like you said, I had no
Yeah,
idea what I was thinking about. It was just a vibe.
that's incredible you have that. I think I'd be thinking the whole time, like, oh my gosh, when is this run going to be over? So good for you.
Thank you. I cycle to work every day, and I'm like, yeah, can this be over already? I want to get my 9 to 5 done so I can chill out. What about Africa's territories and its incredible wildlife have inspired you to take your bike out into the unknown? For example, being out in Africa and even South America at the moment.
Africa was definitely a project that I've been thinking about for a number of years. So in 2017, 2018, I lived out in Mozambique for a year. I was working on a marine project out there, and it was absolutely incredible. I was just living in this small little fishing town. but it had such an amazing sense of community, and the people were beautiful, the marine life there is absolutely unbelievable, and it just definitely when I left, like I feel like I left a cringy, but like a big part of my heart there, and it made me really want to go back and explore. So during that time, I spent some time in Mozambique and some time seeing places in South Africa. And I wanted to explore more parts of Africa. And when I came back and I did a master's degree, and I started cycling as a way of like a bit of headspace, and also just a way of having an adventure in an everyday life. I was in the UK for a while, and yeah, I started to really enjoy cycling and doing like small like weekend bikepacking adventures. And it made me think, oh, I wonder, could I combine those two things? Cycling's like a really beautiful way of traveling, and you can see all these small little communities that if you were by a car or a motorbike, you probably wouldn't stop by all these communities. But when you cycle, you're kind of like forced to stop there. And you can also, like I said, in a couple of weeks, you can cycle across a country, so you can travel, it's achievable, that distance. That kind of combination of those two things, those two passions kind of combined. And I was like, I wonder, can you cycle across Africa? And the thing that really interested me was like this winter, I've just cycled through South America, through some parts of South America. And if you look online, you'll find like so many different blogs and so many different YouTube videos. There's a lot of information out there. Whereas when I was like researching cycling through Africa, I was really having to delve deep, and I was like, I had no idea what this is going to be like. And eventually I'd find like a blog from somebody, and they would put me in touch with somebody else, and it would be like an email chain, and I'd be speaking on Skype to somebody's dad, or like it was a really investigative process, and it made me really excited because the world's so explored. It's a joy of doing it the first time. I feel like the route I've done this year, I almost, if I'd wanted to, I could have watched it all first before I did it. I could see it all before I physically do it. Whereas there's something really cool about being like, I don't know what this is going to be like. Like, I've no idea. And being able to reach out and get like first-hand experiences of people it felt really cool to do something that I wasn't quite sure what it was going to look like.
I think that for me is part of the fun of every single adventure. Like, you set off with it and you're just like, yeah, this might not work, but why not try it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Another really important point that I think is quite underrated in what you just said was the impact of a community. When I went to Zambia in 2019, we worked with these orphan kids, and they were lovely to the point where literally, this Christmas, how many years is that? Almost 6 years now. They still send us messages, and it's so cute. But yeah, it just shows that we left a really lovely
connection.
And I think for me, that is the key about going outdoors. Like, you build connections not only with nature itself, but the friends you meet along the way.
Yeah, 100%. It gives you a common denominator, a common factor that you can relate to people that maybe come from completely different backgrounds, or anything. And if you have this one connection, it means you can you can make friends with people that are very different to you.
Like, I've only just started this podcast. I've had this idea for a year, and I've already spoken to people like you, Olympic champions, and I'm like, what? No idea. I had no idea this would be what it was a year ago. But I'm so glad I reached out and made those connections.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? Is like, I think the fear of failing stops a lot of people from doing something. And I think it's small steps, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, why not just give it a go? And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think there's actually a lot of value to be learnt in things that don't work out, because things that don't work out, you always take a lesson from it. Actually, I think you probably learn more from things that, don't work out perfectly than things that, if everything goes to plan all the time, you don't have as many learning lessons. So yeah, why not put yourself out there? And it's either you treat it either as it's going to be something you're going to learn from rather than fail.
On reflection, when you cycled through Africa, was there something special about the African animal kingdom and us humans?
Yeah, many different things. I think the first thing is like how diverse the African continent is. I think in the West we kind of view Africa as uh, one big country, or like one big the same across, and it's very very different. I think the other thing is we have a perception that it's going to be like, the Lion King, and it's this wild area. And there's definitely parts of that. So like traveling through Namibia and Botswana, they're probably the wildest places I've ever been. And you can go for, you can be on a road, like an actual built road, and not pass a shop for 300 kilometers, or on a bike, that's like 3 days. And you have, like in Botswana, there's no fences, so all the animals can roam wild. So you're on a road, but you also see lots of elephants when you're cycling on that road, or you have the chance of seeing hyenas and lions and all of the wildlife, because the wildlife can roam wherever they want. Whereas when you go into the countries that have higher populations, which is basically the rest of Africa, you have, like, a lot of people will travel to Kenya and to Tanzania, to the Serengeti and like Masai Mara or different places, and that's where you'll have like the David Attenborough classic documentaries of wildlife. But you have to remember that that's within a certain area, like that's a vast amount of, like, a national park, but the rest of Kenya, the rest of Tanzania is very different. It's the animals are there's still like a large population of people, and people who are farming, and the animals are more contained within those national parks. It's not like you're just cycling and you'll see a lion in there. They're within those areas. So I think there are places that are wild, but it's not like this like Lion King kind of perception that people have of Africa everywhere. It's also metropolitan, and so many different other things as well. So just how diverse it is, I think, between different countries is like super cool and super interesting to see. And even within those countries, you see a lot of diversity. That you can feel when you cross the borders from one country to the next. And I think like diversity within the country. For instance, what I found super interesting, or one of the countries I found the most interesting, was actually Namibia, because you have lots of, I'm not sure, like, I think tribes of people that have come from different parts of Africa historically, and you can see how they've like migrated. And historically, maybe one was a tribe that would look after sheep, and one would be like the people we are the cattle people, and they all have different how that stayed. Sorry, you might be able to hear dogs barking in the background. I apologize for that.
You're in Colombia, I'll let you off.
Yeah, they something's upsetting them. I think there's like builders going by or something. But it was really interesting, basically meeting people and seeing that you still have like this rich culture within a country. And even in Namibia, from like the north to south, or like the different places I traveled, you'd see the different languages between people would change, and they have these beautiful, like the Nama people have speak with clicks as well. So they have like 5 different clicks and they're trying to teach me the clicks, and yeah, it's just so different and so super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's all about the perspective of it. Obviously, like you said, we see this incredible, like, almost paradise from The Lion King. Great film, by the way. But it's more that we need to be aware of how it actually is. And what it actually is there's, for me, a danger to losing that sort of paradise. Sort of the Western picture of Africa is this beautiful place of paradise. And what's in danger, for me anyway, is that we need to be aware that it's completely different. Yes, there is that paradise, but humans are going to be humans at the end of the day. So we just need to find that balance where we can still protect nature, but live alongside it, not in fear of it, but not live like over it.
It's definitely a balance. And I think at some point you have to realize as well that, for instance, in like Madagascar, I think people always envision Madagascar as somewhere that's super diverse. And there's a lot of endangered animals that need protected there. But you also have a lot of human issues where the average lifespan of someone in Madagascar is like 32. So you also have to think, how do we manage both of these things? Or there's often a human aspect that has to be considered. Like you can go in for something for wanting to protect a lemur or a marine creature, but actually you have to consider the human aspect as well.
Why do you think it's so important to push ourselves and complete challenges out in nature like you did by cycling through Africa? Is it just to get that real feel of what it's like, or is there something more?
I think, firstly, I don't think everyone needs to do a huge cycling challenge or cycle through Africa. I don't think it's what everyone wants to do, nor is it. I think I come from an incredibly privileged point where I could have 5 months off to do it, and I had I have very few responsibilities and I have very few responsibilities and the freedom and the financial freedom as well in which to do so. But I think it's really important because things you do on adventures transcend, like go into your normal life as well. And the one important thing that I've learned anyway is that it's like you're saying about starting this podcast. You're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And then you do it and you realize the benefits for doing it. So there's things like whenever I first started cycling and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can cycle this distance. And you're scared and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. And then you do it and you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Why was I ever worried about that? Or I don't know if I want to join this group ride because everyone might be faster than me and that's a bit intimidating and I don't want to be the slowest person there. And you go there and everyone's super friendly and super welcoming and you're like, oh, this is really nice. I've met some really cool people. Or you are scared of camping and then you camp and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Now it opens up a whole new opportunities of you're like, oh, I can camp and I'm not scared and it's actually pretty cool. And now I can go wherever I want to go and all I need is my bike and my tent and I've got the freedom to move where I want to. So I think it's important, it's important to challenge yourself. It doesn't always have to be those crazy, crazy big adventures, but it's asking yourself, what are the fear barriers that are holding me back? And should I just go for it? And not always looking at the worst case scenario, but actually being like, okay, if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I've learned, I'll not do it again.
I think that's a really good point for everyone listening to take away from it. I've had, and I can tell you've had times as well, where you've just been like, I don't really want to do this, but screw it, I'll do it anyway. Yeah. And for me, one of my biggest moments like that was when I sort of competitively just jumped out of a plane over Mount Cook in New Zealand, because I was kind of jealous of my friends who've done it before. I just thought it's going to be something cool I can talk about. And it's, yeah, exactly that.
And did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
That's cool. That's cool. And that must be an incredible feeling to be standing there and being like, I don't know if I can do it, and then doing it and being like, whoa, I've just done that thing. That must, you're really putting it on the, because often I think adventures take, for me, like getting to the start line of Africa, you're like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? And it's like months of preparation. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're on, I don't know, top of a diving board, or you're about to jump off out of a plane or something like that, you're actually there in the moment. You're like, okay, do I jump or do I not jump? And you've put it all down to, it's the exact same feeling, but it's in one, 1 minute, it's in 60 seconds, or it's a split decision, which is a cool thing to be like, yeah, I jump.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for me anyway, one of the biggest takeaways I got from jumping was that I'm not really scared of anything anymore. Because realistically, when you look down, or in my case, when I look down, I was just like, we are so small. Like, why am I worried about what people say to me, etc.? Like, just get on with it, just chill. They're not, I guarantee you, most people who have caused anyone issues, or if anyone's listening and they're in like a difficult situation, you just need to take that step away from it and really enjoy the moment for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, super. That's a really nice reflective point of like, really doesn't matter what other people think. You do you.
What are some of the challenges you faced when out in Africa, and what's the biggest lesson that you learned from these?
There was definitely physical challenges. Like, I feel cycling through Namibia was probably the biggest physical challenge. So when we cycled through Namibia, it was 45 degrees Celsius heat. There was no reason. Yeah, and I'm Irish, so I'm just not built for that kind of environment.
No.
Yeah, so it was super, super hot. You have no resupply points, but every 300 k's, and it's off road as well. So it's very corrugated and deep sand. So it's very different cycling 100 kilometers on tarmac and cycling in deep sand. It takes a lot longer to try and do that. And it was that, I think, it plays a worry in your mind, because you're like, I could run out of water and that could be very dangerous. And it's a huge reality that I've never ever had to think about before. I've never, cycling in the UK or Ireland or in Europe, I've never had to think, oh, I could legit run out of water. There's maybe like 10 cars sometimes that pass you in a day, or 10, about that. And I would say 9 out of those 10 cars stopped and said, are you okay? Are you sure you want to be doing this?
Yeah.
But they would stop and they would be like, can we help you? You sure you don't want to get in the car? Do you want some water? Because they'd often be like overland trucks that had like, they were going for multiple days. So I think at one point you feel you put yourself in a situation where you're incredibly vulnerable. So for me, the max I could carry, the max capacity, the setup I had, I could carry about 10 litres, which got me through a day and a half. And I had 3 days to cover before I was reaching from one place to the next. So I would not have been able to make it, or like not have been able to make it well, without the help of other people. And I think it's that point of like, you put yourself in an incredibly vulnerable situation, but you also realize how kind the majority of people in the world are. I think that's what these adventures have taught me, is like, the majority of people in the world are good. So far, anyway.
Yeah. No, oh my God, I'm just picturing now me in that, did you say 43-degree heat? Nah,
I think
I'm
the
out.
hottest day was 46 degrees. And we were like, no, that's too much. Let's not cycle today.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, it was, I've never experienced temperatures like that before in my life.
I genuinely think I'd melt. or
That's
be
what,
or be very close to the
yeah.
mountain.
Yeah, that's, you're like, I can feel my skin sizzling and I smell like bacon.
What is really nice to hear is that your perspective on the people you've or the people who have helped you along the way. It's just that most people will be nice. You just need to go up and talk to them. I say
Yeah,
that in the nicest way possible, because there are some dodgy people, but I think going on adventures, trust your gut with who you talk to, etc.
yeah, yeah, yep, 100%. I think that gut feeling you have is something that you definitely learn to trust. Yeah.
Mm. What would you say is the best thing about cycling that you can't do or learn from anything else?
I think this goes back to the point we were talking about earlier, is it's like finding your, oh, what is the word? I'm very bad when I'm remembering analogies. Finding your niche, finding
Yeah,
your thing that works for you.
perfect.
Um,
Mm.
and for me, that's cycling. And I think the thing that cycling gives me that nothing else gives me is it gives me headspace. It gives me like just time when I just like go into my own little brain and everything else seems very calm and the world just seems like, yeah, a really nice place. And I think that for you, that's like mile 18 running. And for me, that's
No,
cycling.
it's not mile 18, I'll tell you that for
No.
free. Mile 18 is pain. But anyway.
But I mean, from when I go running, and it's a different, I think I find it a lot physically harder. So I'm just like, oh, this is hard. And afterwards I come back from the run and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did that. But it doesn't give me the same like calmness that cycling gives me. So I think that's what it gives me, and I think it's about for people finding that in whichever form it may be is really important.
It's whatever works for you,
Yeah.
or whatever works for any of my listeners, because some of the things that, I mean, cycling like in the UK is hard enough when you don't really have that background, like I don't.
Hmm.
But oh my god, Nick, I'd much rather run.
Yeah. And
But
I
no.
think running has so many benefits, especially if you're trying to fit everything in. If you've half an hour of free time, especially if you have like a
Mm.
family or anything else, or you have lots of other things going on, you can pick up a pair of trainers and you can go out and you can run and you can get that boost of endorphins and you can feel good. Cycling, I feel you have to go for at least like an hour and a half to make it feel like you're like, okay, cool, I've moved my body in an exercise kind of way. Um, but it still feels good to go and be like, okay, rather than driving like you said, you cycle to work, rather than driving half an hour to work, I'm going to cycle there too instead. And you've already started the day and you've started moving. I think that's good to like move your body in any way.
Yeah, it's amazing. Honestly, when I go into work on a Monday, everyone's like,
Yeah.
morning. Whereas I'm like, oh, hi guys, I'm
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
I'm chilling.
yeah, yeah,
I've just been outdoors for what's felt like what, an hour or so. Let's
yeah.
move.
And I think that point of moving from one place to another, the transition between
Mm.
a workplace and a home place, it gives you time to shut down and be like, okay, that's work is finished for the day. And then you can kind of like, during that journey, your brain's automatically like compartmentalizing work. And then you're home and you've like had this transition period. And it's like you've had, yeah, that active way of doing it.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the best things about my day. Like, just leave work about 5. What were your outdoor inspirations growing up, and how has this influenced you to go out on these incredible adventures?
Good questions. Many different things. Um, I think so. I grew up in the countryside, very rural Northern Ireland, and my mum worked as a horse trainer, and so we would have basically you buy horses that are cheap, and you train them, and then you try and sell them for a bit of profit. So we would have worked a lot on doing that together. So I spent a lot of my time outside. And I think, and my granny was kind of similar. And I think seeing, for me, like you're handling animals that are like massive. You're every day, you're like carrying massive bales of hay. You're doing things that are, I'd say, like not traditionally very feminine. You know, you're quite strong, you're
Yeah.
moving heavy things, you're driving like huge lorries, you're doing things that are, I think, not as a gender stereotype, like that kind of role. And for me, that was very normal to see women doing those kind of like, you're doing those kind of things like moving heavy machinery, moving heavy equipment, handling large animals, and doing it all
Mm.
is pretty normal. And also spending a lot of time outside doing that. So I think that idea of a bit more of a gender narrative about who does adventures, and I don't think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
ever entered my psyche, because I never really, I didn't really see any differences there. Growing up, I think that was a huge, like important part of it. And then obviously, like every other child in the 90s, you see Dave Attenborough on TV and you're like, that's incredible. Like, I want to be outside in nature and I want to do
Yeah.
all those things and I want to
Yeah.
see animals. And so a lot of those things, for me, the whole part about recreationally spending time outside, or hiking, cycling, that came much later. That came in my mid-20s when I worked in outdoor education, and I met some friends that were like, let's go hiking or let's go camping. And I was like, are you sure you want to do this? But it was through friends that introduced me to it. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for them, because it really has made my life a lot better.
I think what's really interesting is your upbringing as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for some people, that just wouldn't have been a normal. But luckily for people like you and me, and I'm sure many others listening, we do have the opportunities to just go out and be in nature. And I really do hope that that's one of the most important things anyone gets from listening to any of these episodes, that you can just take that 5-minute break, just head outside, chill, and come back, and I guarantee your headspace will be a lot better and you'll feel a lot more productive.
Yeah, definitely. Even just having a cup of tea outside is really beneficial. And I think something that's like underrated is actually the green spaces that we have in urban areas
Yes,
are incredible. Like you don't need like,
absolutely.
yes, I think in the UK you have incredible national parks. You also just spending time, you know, where you can like be in a calm place and listen to birds, or like, in a city as well, also is really important.
That's part of the reason I moved to Cardiff for uni. Like, their green spaces, and obviously having Wales on your doorstep. People
Mm-hmm.
might give it stick, but it's so underrated. It's so
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah. Cardiff's an incredible spot. Cardiff and like Bristol are really amazing gateway cities. You have the
Mm.
Brecon Beacons, you have the coast, you can go surfing, you can go climbing. Yeah, really, really cool places.
On top of that, I think your point about David Attenborough, I definitely feel that, because
Yeah,
that's part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing.
yeah. He's inspired so many people. It's incredible.
On things that we both enjoy, I don't know about you, but whenever I go out and explore, I love having a little sort of snack to get me through it. I mean, I can't really run with like a chocolate bar,
Yeah.
but I can find a way to try and run without a chocolate bar, with a chocolate bar. But anyway, what's one thing you treat yourself to whilst on your bike ride?
Something I really like, I like to bring like a cake with me, because I find
Mm.
I don't like to eat lots of sugary things. So I don't like to eat like loads of Haribo, like those quick fix you'd have maybe if you're like on a run. Because I find
Yep.
if you're going for multiple days, it tends to just gets too much,
Yeah.
and I often want something that's a bit
Yeah.
heavier. So I love a good Jaffa cake, not Jaffa cake. Oh my God, what are they called? Jamaican gingerbread cakes. Have you seen
Oh,
those?
strong.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah, and
Very
I
good.
didn't have them like I'd have them. My granny would always have them, so it always is this like feeling of like a sentimental feeling as well when when I sit down and
Yeah,
have my little Jamaican
yeah.
gingerbread cake, and I'm like, I'm gonna have this rationed out, and then I just like pound the whole thing straight in one.
Anyone. Lovely. Yeah. To be fair, Mary Berry showed us the way, so
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
it. I love a good cake. Oh, that's so good.
yeah,
It's so good.
yeah.
Speaking of sweet treats, or in your case, sweet cakes. But anyway, speaking of sweet treats, let's swap some treats for some truths in a game I like to call the Sweet Truth.
Okay,
So, Saoirse, your task is to tell me 3 things, 1 truth
okay.
and 2 falsehoods about any experience you've had out in nature, in
Oh, wow.
literally anywhere in the world. Either I get the sweet victory of picking the truth, or you get the sweet victory of persuading me to pick incorrectly.
When I was in Africa, I was charged by elephants. I once rode a unicycle to Amsterdam. I also did a bikepacking trip through Ireland, and I tried to do all the 32 counties of Ireland. And I actually ended up staying at Bono's sister's house.
Whereabouts did you start? Was it in the south, or was it south or north of Amsterdam?
No, I started in London, or just outside of London.
What was your
And then
route?
I cycled just outside of London, and then I went down to where Calais is, and then I
Yeah.
cycled up through Belgium and like through France, through Belgium, and then all the way through through Holland into Amsterdam. And
Did you?
because I wanted it to be adventure, I didn't want to like just go directly there.
Nice. I mean, unicycling is one way to get around. I wouldn't do it, but
It's
fair
a
enough.
one wheel way.
Yeah, yeah. When you were in Amsterdam, did you go anywhere else in Holland, or was it just get there and then
No, it took quite a while
unicycle
because
back?
the wind,
Yeah,
it was quite windy. I went over the little fingers that are in like that are in Holland, and they're quite windy, and it's quite hard on the unicycle, especially trying to carry all my things.
yeah,
And I went through, so it took me a while. I went through Rotterdam as well, which is a really cool city, and they have upside down houses there.
yeah. Nice. What was the first one? Because I've forgotten.
The first one was when I was in Africa, I was charged by elephants.
Okay, that's definitely plausible. And the third one was
I did a
Bono's
cycle
sister.
through Ireland, and I stayed with Bono's sister.
Okay, so I just need to pick up what's false. Okay, before I ask you my final question, or like before I say,
One truth, 2 falses.
yeah, okay. How long did you stay in Holland or Amsterdam or wherever in Holland before you, I guess, either flew or unicycled back or drove back?
I stayed there. I stayed in Amsterdam for a weekend. A lot of my friends were also planning a weekend in Amsterdam, so I cycled out there and I met them.
Okay. Char, I'm going to go with the elephants as the truth.
Yeah, the elephant is the truth. Unfortunately,
Bingo.
didn't stay with Bono's sister, which would be cool though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do have like family, like married in family that know him. And I did cycle to Amsterdam, but not on a unicycle. So
Yeah.
that would have been cooler. Yeah, one of
yeah.
one of my friends that I just did a recent trip with, her dad got really into unicycling randomly, and he took the whole family on a unicycling family holiday for a week, which I was like,
Nice.
that's pretty wild.
That's
so, yeah.
mad. That's crazy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Yet to
The
learn.
reason I, yeah, the reason I ask so many questions about around Amsterdam, is because my dad grew up just outside of Amsterdam. So I was waiting to see if he said the place that he's from, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
that's another win for me. I'll take that. Um,
Well done.
Now, Saoirse, for the listeners, when you got to that viewpoint, what do you remember about that moment? Just so people listening can live that experience vicariously through you.
Newport, I think. I think one of the coolest experiences I had, if we're talking about the Africa trip, was in Kenya. So
Mm.
there's an amazing route called the Kenyan Odyssey, and I was doing a little bit of that, and I bumped into another cyclist, another female cyclist, which is super rare to see, like super in Africa. I didn't bump into that
Mm.
many cyclists, and then to see another woman cycling was really cool. And she was from the local town there, and she was trying to get more local Kenyan women cycling. And we were chatting to her, super cool. And I ended up cycling back into the town with her and her friends. And I stayed with them for the next couple of days, and we went hiking and stuff. And then on the Sunday, I left and I was cycling towards the equator sign. And
Mm.
they basically had sent a group out to all of their friends, and we started cycling, and there was like a group of 6 of us, and as we were cycling through the town, more and more cyclists kept joining us, and
That's
eventually
so cool.
yeah, it was amazing. And we cycled out to like the equator sign, which for me was quite like a really cool moment in the journey, because I just cycled halfway up a continent, and I was like, wow, I've started from South Africa all the
That's,
way up here. And
yeah.
there was maybe like 30 people, 30 local cyclists, and it was just, yeah, incredible to be able to share that moment and to feel like, um,
Mm.
yeah, like a part, like they'd taken me and allowed me to be part of their community, and it was super, super, super nice to just have that feeling that wherever you go in the world, there's people who have grown up very differently, but you can still find this sense of community. I think that was beautiful.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, I think what's really crucial, or a really good point to raise, is that sense of community. And there's something for me about um, the people on or in Africa. They're just so welcoming, or even not even in Africa, but in any continent that the sort of West paints as like a war zone or something. There are so many beautiful people with so many like beautiful spirits
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
their like characteristics and stuff, that you just need to, I guess, take the risk, but the reward, like you said, with your cycling with a load of them, is definitely a massive benefit. Like 9 times out of 10, you'd be like, nah, I don't want to do that. But when you go there, like, oh, sick. That was so cool.
Yeah. I think it's really important to remember that like the people who live in a place are not the headlines that you see. They're not the government regime, and they're
Mm,
not the most people are just normal people trying to get on with their day-to-day life. Yeah,
mm.
so I think it's very easy to think about a place as, you know, if you see a place where there's bad things happening, it's very easy to think that that applies to all the people there, but it definitely doesn't in my experience anyway.
Yeah. Just an off-topic question. Have you heard of Yes Theory on YouTube?
No, I've heard of the Yes Tribe, but not the Yes Theory.
Yes Theory are incredible. Like,
Yeah.
they are basically a group of people from America who go all over the world to like Afghanistan, African
Mm-hmm.
countries, etc.,
Yeah.
and really try and shine a light on them. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're listening, please come on the podcast because I'd love to have you on. But anyway, no.
That's super cool.
Where is your next adventure?
Um, well, I've just finished
Well,
another adventure that feels very different. So I just spent the last couple of months traveling through Patagonia with a big group of friends. Actually, there was 12 of us, and now I'm in Colombia, and there was a couple of us went on another little bikepacking trip. And so now I'm really honestly like craving the opposite side of things. I think life's all about balance, and sometimes you crave to be still. Like right now, I would love to just be still for a little bit, have a kitchen, have a routine, go for a run in the morning, and be able to cook my own food that's not like, out of a tiny gas stove. So that's where my head's at and what I'm thinking about now. And then when I get bored of that, I'm sure I'll be conjuring up the next adventure,
Yeah, sweet. I mean, wherever that next adventure is, I'd love if you came back on and told us all about it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to, to ask me through and share my story. And I love what you're doing with it. And I love that you're celebrating and encouraging more people to take time outside and to utilize that and draw attention to the benefits it can have too.
Absolutely no problem. I mean, I do what I love at the end of the day. So thanks again for coming on. One last task. Please can you write down and send to me one nature-based phrase that I must get into my next podcast without my guests knowing.
And what was the last one? What did you have to try and get into this?
I was going to ask you that question. Do you have any idea?
No idea.
Perfect.
What was it?
10 for 10.
I want to know what it was now.
Okay. Wait, I'm just going to look at my notebook because I shut my
I'm
notebook.
going to have to listen to this back and be like, what? When did that happen?
That's why I do it. Anyway. So it's from the Travel Project. Check them out on Instagram. It was nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished.
Oh wow. Well done. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, good point, doesn't you?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Okay, I'm going to have a ponder about that today, and then I'll send you a message.
Saoirse, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been really interesting to hear about everything that you do and your belief that community and perspective is the number one thing that we really should go out into nature and try and explore for ourselves. Thanks again for coming on. Until next time, get out and explore what's beyond your front door. Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow Maximise Nature on Instagram for more nature-based content. See you next time.